let's dive in to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by the Juan and Only. I love that name. And the Juan and Only writes, "Hey, John and friends. The Hollywood Reporter just announced a direct sequel to the 2008 Cloverfield is in the works, with JJ as producer and Joe Barton, the new Batman HBO series, technically it's the new Gotham HBO series, as the writer. It seems we're finally getting a story following the Manhattan events. Being a big fan of the whole Cloverfield universe, I couldn't be more excited by this news. Your thoughts and congrats on your new place." All right, thanks a lot for that, man. I appreciate that. And yes, look, the first Cloverfield came out, and it was, Rob, it's not a dirty word to say, it was a real novelty. There was a real novelty to that first Cloverfield movie.
Yeah.
And a bunch of people enjoyed it. And then they kind of decided to do this weird, like, anthology kind of thing where they did, what was it called? 1, 2, 3 Cloverfield Lane, or whatever, the one with Elizabeth Weinstead in it.
Yeah, I think just, yes.
Yeah, something along those lines.
Something along those lines.
And which is pretty good. John Goodman was in that. That was pretty good. Then they did the abysmal Cloverfield in Space one that at the last second the studio ditched onto Netflix, and then it came out and we were like, oh, that's why they ditched on it. It was absolutely awful. But they never followed up with that first Cloverfield movie. Anyway, this comes to us from the folks over at the Hollywood Reporter who write, Cloverfield, the J.J. Abrams produced horror hit, released in 2008. I can't believe it was like 13 years ago. That launched filmmaker Matt Reeves on his path, who's now doing Batman, on the path of genre auteur, is getting a sequel. Abrams' Bad Robot banner and Paramount Pictures have tapped rising British scribe Joe Barton to pen the script for the project, which, unlike its predecessor, will not be in the found footage format, according to the sources. This is interesting to me. This to me is interesting. So there's a couple things here. Number one, interesting fact number one, they're doing this as a direct sequel to the first one, which is what they should have done in the first place. 8714 Cloverfield Lane South, notwithstanding, it was a good movie. I enjoyed it, but they should have been doing a direct sequel to this in the first place. And Rob, I know this isn't going to be a popular opinion. But I love that they're saying this is not going to be in the found footage format. Don't get me wrong. It worked fine for the first one, but I think going more into that, where's the novelty off? I actually adore the fact that they're saying we're going to do this as a proper narrative movie to follow up on what that first one was. So I know that's not going to be popular with a lot of people. A lot of people who like the first Cloverfield are going to want it to stay the same. And I understand that. It's a valid point of view. But for me, I kind of like this news. Now, I can't really speak to how good or bad I think Barton is, because we haven't seen this Gotham HBO series yet. But clearly, they kind of like what they see right now. Anyway, Rob, there's a lot of different angles of this whole thing to break down and dissect. You hear about this news, a direct sequel to Cloverfield coming 13, by the time this comes out, 14, 15 years later after the original. We got this showrunner who's doing it. It's not going to be done in the found footage. There's a lot to break down there, Rob. What are your thoughts?
Well, the original Cloverfield might be my favorite thing that J.J. Abrams was ever involved in theatrically. I loved it. I thought it was innovative. I thought it was really interesting. It turned into a giant monster movie, which I love. I love the found footage angle on it. I thought it was really well done. I love the lead up, the marketing to it. It was so mysterious. Now it's all old hat, but I loved it. And the idea that they might do a sequel as a quote unquote regular movie without the found footage aspect, where we're going to learn about what's going on, or maybe multiple creatures have now laid siege to wherever, New York. I'm in, man. Count me in and count me stoked, because what's not to love about that?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they pick. And it's also going to be interesting to see how people respond, because it has been a lot of years, and it's not like the first Cloverfield was $1 billion film and they had some, especially with that Cloverfield in Space one. It's going to be interesting to see how people respond to this. Do you think people are going to be excited about this?
Well, if it looks good, I think the last Cloverfield movie that they dropped, right after the Super Bowl, that was actually a movie called The God Particle, but then they turned it into a Cloverfield movie, was such a crushing disappointment that they can only go up. It can only be better because you'd be hard pressed to make a movie that was less disappointing than the last Cloverfield film. So I'm there for it, John. Color me stoked. I'm in.
Question is, guys, what do you think about this news? Do you like the fact that they're doing it? Do you like that they're going to make it as a direct sequel to the first one? Do you think that means they'll ignore the other ones? Probably as kind of anthology sort of thing. What do you think about them not doing it in the found footage format? Do you think it might be a little bit too late to do this thing? What are you guys thinking about it? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys.